Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to our reaction video to the signing of Dwight McNeil from Burnley. I'm joined by Owen, and Owen, the Dwight McNeil transfer saga is over. The long and winding saga that lasted several hours. We've signed him for what appears to be 15 million guaranteed, rising to potentially 20 million after add-ons. I think if we win Eurovision and the Grand National and whatever. So yeah, as a Toffee Blues resident Burnley correspondent, what was your initial reaction when the news broke? Well, yeah, ex-Burnley correspondent, but how do you feel about the signing of Dwight McNeil?
I'm not privy to how much money we've actually got to spend this summer. So if I'm pleased to find out that we've got a bit more money to spend, and he's a bit of we've got it cheaper than we thought, and we really like him, and he adds something to the team. Then yeah, I think there's something to work with there. I think that there's potential. But if this is if this is our supposed replacement for Richarlison, then I'm quite worried, because he's not that, and he doesn't guarantee the same number of goals and assists as Richarlison. So I don't know. I feel like if we get a corner and McNeil comes in as well, then I'll be happy with that. But if it's just McNeil, which I think it might be, I'm not sure that that's the right strategy to go behind.
Yeah, I feel a little bit like yourself at the minute that we're lacking a bit of context for the whole window. We're sort of standing a bit too close to a picture at the minute and can't see the whole thing. We can see McNeil, but we don't know what the rest of the recruitment's going to look like. So, his stats for last year aren't something that gets you excited. 1 assist, 1 goal. 1 assist, 0 goals. I stand corrected.
Did he not score a goal?
I don't think so. It was. I think it was.
He may not have done.
Yeah. He played for the majority of the season. He played over 30 games. The smart thinking, or the common thinking, if anything, online is that whilst we were rebuffed for Maxwell Cornet by Burnley, they wanted the money up front, and weren't in the mood to be negotiating with us on that. They were seen to be a lot more open to sort of persuasion with Dwight McNeil. The talk is that we've had a small down payment, which is what's been attractive to us for this deal, whereas they wouldn't accept one for Cornet. I can't see personally, just me thinking, that we'd get Cornet as well. Not to say we wouldn't get other players to go alongside McNeil, like a Brozier or a Morgan Gibbs-White, if that's still on the cards. But I wouldn't imagine we'd get Cornet as well, just because they both play similar position in the team. So they can't. I don't even know how did Burnley accommodate the two of them together, because I don't see how we could have.
Cornet played up front and McNeil played on the left. So 4-4-2. McNeil was off the left. Cornet was a split striker just behind either Chris Wood or missing an action Weghorst.
Well,
shocking footballer.
If you say that, then maybe we could bring them in. But I would be very surprised if we have 3 players from Burnley in our summer shopping list. But
why not?
Yeah. Because you're not really pulling away from the relegation zone if you just buy relegated. I mean, I say that tongue in cheek, because some of the best deals in ever have come from relegated teams. Some of the best bargains. But
I'm not sure replicating the whole sort of is the right way to go down here.
But shades of Roberto Martinez bringing his whole relegated Wigan team with him.
What I would say is, though, these guys are considerably better than Alcaraz and Joe. Yeah. So I would say that these are guys who played about 10 years in the Premier League. So there's a lot of reasons. Yeah. Well, James Tarkowski, he's been a brilliant buy. Well, he's yet to kick a ball in anger in the Premier League for us, but there's no way I can see him sort of flopping around. He's very much a steady Eddie, and we need more of them. And McNeil is what it is. I think we lacked creativity last season. That's another thing as well. And he is someone who's got a better final pass on him than some of our other players. I'm not angry that we were buying Dwight McNeil. It's more of a question of we need a bit more dynamism. So Emmanuel Dennis is someone else who's been linked now by rule. I wouldn't touch anyone in that absolute shambolic Watford squad who are the biggest gang of shit house for my money. But he was the bright spark of that. So maybe I do think we need another forward though. We can't just buy Dwight McNeil for my money. Or it's big Sal up front again. And no one wants that.
My guy. Just about McNeil, like the way I look at it is, I personally have always quite liked McNeil. I understand, his flaws. He's very one-footed. He's not particularly fast. Like he's not a rapid winger or anything like that. But he's got good delivery. He's a hard-working player, and I usually hate that term, like hard-working player. It should all be hard-working, but defensively, obviously well coached and the Sean Dyche era, and it adds solidity. Whenever he plays in the team, and obviously, as we saw to our pedal a year ago, has got a bit of a shot on him when he gets it away. Like, but
I think you're seeing the very best side of Dwight McNeil here. I've seen some absolutely horrific sides of him as well, and a hard-working player. Let's just say if he strops around Goodison like he did sometimes to Turf Moor last season, I don't think he'll get down the tunnel alive.
Fair enough. So would you challenge that? Would you say he's not a defensively hard-working player?
Oh no, he is, but I think this probably flies in the face of everyone else saying about buying Cornet. Every time, as soon as Cornet came in the team, and he wasn't the sort of main attraction of the team, he started having a bit of a gob on, to be honest, and sulking around a bit, and it just took away from the team ethic, to be honest, because it was all about Dwight McNeil the seasons before that, and it was all get the ball to him for wooden barns, but he seemed to get that role taken away from him, and Cornet came in the team and he played a bit differently. So I don't know, to be honest, but look, he probably a fresh start for him. Everton might do him with the world of good, playing in a different position, maybe not wing back though. Everton aren't in the position you finished 16th last season, playing midfield as left wing back with Man City. It just really frustrates me as if we're some sort of different entity from what I saw last season. I just don't understand it.
Well, just on his position, obviously we know when he played for Burnley, he played left midfield for 4-4-2, very very structured, very easy to sort of observe. Everyone knows how that works. Say we play this 3-4-3 system or 5-3-3 or whatever it is we're playing. 5-3-3 wouldn't work. That'd be 12 players, wouldn't it? 5-2-3. Basically, where would you see him fitting in a 3 at the back system? We know how he'd fit in a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3, etc. But where would he go in the formation that we played against Blackpool, for example?
I think he would probably, because we've got Gordon and Gray, we would probably play cutting in. I think McNeil probably play off the right, to be honest, for Everton, and would be asked to cut in because we've got them wing backs who we'd be trying to get overlapping to get crosses in. I think what you're trying to get is the space for them, and say to McNeil and Gray, you cut inside and offer the space for the wing backs to overlap. That's how I could see us doing it. I think he might switch either side. He might play off the right sometimes, off the left. I just think it'd be incredibly foolish to play him left wing back. I think either off the right, predominantly off the right, but I could see him also cutting off the left as well. Maybe we were playing a 4-4-1-1. He'd play number 10.
Yeah, I mean,
he's played number 10 before, Burnley.
Has he played on the right before? I keep seeing that because he's left-footed. People seem quite
no, not really. He's only ever played off the left or as number 10 a bit when he had literally no players during lockdown.
Yeah, it always made me. I always think when people do this, when they get a player who's predominantly one-footed but hasn't been in an inverted winger before, but they all start putting him there, it makes me think of Billy Letonov. Yeah. He's always played on the left. We had an established left side of Pienaar and Baines, bought a left winger / number 10 and tried to play him on the right, and he just was a fish out of water. So I hope we don't start trying that again with McNeil. But the way I look at it, and obviously I've not got the experience watching McNeil as you have, but in the 3-4-3 formation on that front three, I can picture us playing McNeil on the left and Gordon on the right, and all that gives, although they're both the stronger foot to be on the outside of them, they could always switch throughout the game, float, and it makes them more comfortable to get crosses across the 6-yard box for Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who, all being fit, he'll be the number 9. But then also defensively, when we get back in our shape, it would turn into a 5-4-1 where you'd have a box, like you'd have the back 5, because we are playing. If we do play this formation, we're going to play basically fullbacks at wing back, aren't we? We're not playing like midfield. We're not having Victor Moses on one side. Which
I think would be a terribly bad idea for Everton as well if they were to try and do that, because the reason teams get away with doing that is because they got more of the ball and they're playing more in the front foot. Whereas Everton just finished 16th. They're one of the favourites to be around there again, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So at least for the first half of the season, you want to make sure you're not back there, and you want to make sure you keep it as tight as you can and get as many results. And maybe in the second half of the season, you see where you are. But I think for the first half of the season, I think you're right there. Just try and keep it as simple as you can. And Everton need to create as many goal-scoring chances as they can next season, and I think that might be the way to do it. I think if we overcomplicate things and try and do, because we did this a bit. Remember the Wolves game around? We were just trying to walk it in, and I think if we play a bit more effectively, we might get a few more chances to score, especially with Calvert-Lewin as well, who is a notorious get the ball across the box for him to nod it in. So he's not going to create a chance for himself, is he? So.
Oh, this is what I mean. Like if we were to play, McNeil on the left of the front three and a 3-4-3 and Gordon on the right, it probably would be Gordon in that scenario, then it gives you that sort of structure and solidity to the team where when you're out of possession and you're on the back, defensive actions, you've got proper. You don't get me wrong, it leaves Dominic Calvert-Lewin quite isolated, but he's a target man. He could retain the ball and wait for support, which would be the two either side of him. But it's not like, put it this way, we played against Blackpool and we had Dele Alli in that position that I'm talking about, and he just, whatever he brings to the team, it's not in defensive phases, is it? He just strolls around the pitch. Whereas if you're playing a good team in the Premier League, you would rather have McNeil on that left of the front three. You might prefer Dele Alli in the team somewhere else, but on that left, McNeil's going to give you far more in terms of cover and structure than Dele Alli will. So if that is the formation,
that's the big mystery to me in all of this, is where does he fit in? I just don't know where he fits in this team that's trying to play 3-4-3. It just doesn't. It's a difficult one for me to try and pin him down, because he isn't someone who I particularly rate, and he doesn't have a particular place in the current team. He played about 12 minutes last season. People are heralding him as the talisman of Everton, and I just don't know how to come to that.
I thought you were talking about McNeil then, so you said
Dele Alli, sorry.
I know what you mean. I think it's just because he's the most exciting sort of unknown quantity player we've got. Everyone knows what everyone else brings apart from him. So I just chalk that up.
But where does he play though? Where does he play in this current system?
For me, on the bench. But I understand a lot of other people want to play him in a number 10 and play a back 4, which won't work for Patterson for the start. And
no, we seem to be very open every time we play a back 4 as well and concede loads of chances. And we definitely don't want to be doing that, because that means we're going to have to score more goals, and we don't have many of them as there is. So
yeah, well, it's a bit of an interesting one. With the director of football we've got, I wouldn't be surprised to see us build on a back 3 system in the long term. And Lampard's played it a lot as well. Whether he sticks with that full time or switches it around, I think we'll probably go with that, considering the makeup of this current squad. And even if we bring other players in, you bring Brozier in, you could play him on one of the front positions, either the left or the right. Or if you bring Morgan Gibbs-White in, who's another one we've been linked with, he would play on the right of a front 3, I would imagine, in this system.
Probably.
Obviously, the two in the middle would leave a lot to be desired. Obviously, the window's not shut yet. But I just going back to McNeil, I think the Cliff Notes version is I quite like McNeil. I know his stats recently scream that he's not worth spending money on, but for me, it's more a case of are we just not seeing the bigger picture yet? People point to these. Well, a lot of people point to these other clubs in the Premier League and go, "Look at what they're doing. Look at what they're doing." You look at Crystal Palace are bringing in lots of young players with a lot of them are like sort of London based, like they're taking young players from Chelsea, they're taking young players from Arsenal and what have you, and they're building that sort of identity. And I could see, it might not be the case, but I could easily see Everton doing something similar, maybe a bit slower because of the financial situation and the amount of players you've got to get rid of, whereas Palace got rid of a lot of their big contracts all at once season before last. We might go, right, well, we're getting a lot of we've got, Anthony Gordon's a young Scouse player, McNeil, he's from Northwest.
Barlow, a young ex-Scouse, young, still shite.
Patterson, who's, young Scottish player, could be sort of building a northern, chips and gravy version of what Palace are trying to do. Who knows? You don't know. The task of the director of football is to flip this squad, make sure we're not spending 92 pence out of every pound on wages, and get things looking better. And it's not going to happen overnight.
We have to be more efficient, don't we?
Yeah, definitely, just throughout the club, and it might not be able to turn the boat round quickly, but hopefully it is turning around on the football side of things.
I think what gives me the it's based on absolutely nothing here, but what gives me a little bit of confidence is that I feel like Kevin Felwell's got an idea of what he wants to do. If no one else does, I think Kevin Felwell doesn't. If he's allowed a few years, forget what's on the pitch, and for now what we do this season. I feel like in a couple of years when everything's been controlled by him and the decisions haven't been taken a few weeks or a few months before he came or whatever, from when he started to now, I think we could be in a situation where he's properly got this coming to the way he wants it, and I feel like I'm gonna trust his lead for now, and hopefully he's got the answers. I feel like he's got a plan, and I'm yet to see it, but I feel like that there's a method in this kind of madness.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I think it won't happen overnight because we haven't got financial wiggle room and freedom thanks to the regime that is still in charge and previous management regimes. But we, basically his brief is to make a younger, leaner squad, so we're not hemorrhaging money every year on wages, and eventually get rid of the Gomez's, the Allens, people like that, and then you'll have a group of young players: Patterson, Michaelenko, Gordon, McNeil, maybe other players, Gibbs White, maybe, and then you'll have a core of experienced players where you get say maybe 4 or 5 in the squad who are up there, but we're value for money. We're not pissing money up the wall on the likes of Andre Gomez. If someone's got a 90 grand a week contract, it's actually James Tarkowski, who plays every single week and is crucial to the team. It's not players who aren't even getting on the bench. It's making your money work for you. And then you look at the rest of the players are on they're on 30, 40 grand, and if they become key players, then that's when they get new contracts rather than bringing in stars or faded stars from other clubs and giving them big wages. We want to get away from that.
Not Harry Winks, in other words.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I think that kind of move would be a bad idea. I mean, it seems a little scattergun at the moment, but I hope by the time the window comes to an end, we see a bit of an idea of what Kevin Felwell wants. And I think the emphasis on this recruitment has to be put on him, not Frank Lampard, because Frank Lampard's responsibilities, he should just solely be, can he get a tune off the players, and he'll be judged on that this season. I think this is Kevin Felwell's remit, and I think
you also
we should judge him in a period of time. So if we start badly, that can't be on Kevin Felwell. That has to be on other people. Kevin Felwell's job is a slightly longer term thing for me than anyone else.
Yeah,
I hope he's got a plan of what he wants to do. I hope he does. I think he's got an idea as well.
Yeah, you want him to sort of get his teeth into the project and flip the squad. It won't happen quickly, but it needs to happen. And we've got basically 2 years left at Goodison, and then we go into Burnley more. And that 2 years, we need to get ourselves looking in better shape, financially and on the pitch. I've said in group chats that we're in and stuff like that. think we've been trying for several years under Mashiri to be Arsenal, like, oh, get all these star players and play a nice way of football, etc. Whereas what we need to do now, we need to take the medicine of, we need to emulate the likes of Wolves, who've got a functional team, who, you know, everyone knows their position, everyone knows their place.
Yeah.
They don't waste money frivolously. They live within their means. I think we need to get back to that sort of basics, and then we can, when we're in Bramley Moor, see like where do we stand? Because right now, it's crashed and burned. So, you know, the signers like Dwight McNeil, you might look and go, oh, well, they're not groundbreaking for the stats and all that. No, but if he fits a vision of what we want to do, if they're right, we're going to build around a core of young English players or young British players, and we're going to have some experience in there. But, you know, they're going to be players who play every week. They're not going to be crocs. They're not going to be, you know, they're not going to be, you know, like luxury players. Then I'm all for that. Obviously, at first, you might see us get some short-term fixes because of the situation, but I don't think we'll be seeing the likes of Idrissa Gueye come in and on a 5-year contract. I think it'll be a short-term thing if he does come in, or a loan. But that might just be because we can't do everything all at once, and we need to secure our Premier League survival. Same with players like Ross Barkley. I don't think he'll be coming in on long contracts. If he does come in, it'll be a 2-year, and then we've got a 3rd-year option if you're any good.
Well, we know the answer to that. One thing I would say though is, what were you just saying there about the young English players? I hate to sound really Brexit here, but when we've spent a lot of money previously on players from abroad like Klassen and Moise Keane, who we've took a risk on, and we've wasted loads of money on them as well.
Yeah.
Where now it might be a case of signing someone who we've seen for a few years in around the Premier League, like Dwight McNeil, and we know that the risk isn't as high, and we could probably sell him on for a few quid as well if we had to. I think them days of people criticise Everton for not scouting abroad, but they have done now in the past. Gbamin, Keane, Klassen, Sandro, they've done these exact signings people wanted in the past, and they've been awful. Now, not to say every signing we would make from abroad would be a terrible piece of business, but I think in the current financial market, Everton aren't in the position to be putting big amounts of money on players from abroad that they don't know a lot about.
Yeah, I understand. A lot of people think, you know, like, why aren't we going for the £6 million players from like Belgium and like play and things like that, and Austria? And I understand that completely. I think the club's thinking now, though, is with money being really tight and our Premier League status being quite tight, I think they're not in any frame of mind or mood to be taking punts on players. I think if we were to, I mean, it could be the wrong strategy, but what I've observed, what I think is they're going to look at, you know, safer bets and try and get a core of a squad together. And then if next year we finish, you know, 10th and we're on 46 points, then they'll go, right, this summer we're going to look and we're going to go for like the players from you know, the Austrian league or the Belgian league, as I said, you know, like, and then, you know, there's an argument to say should be doing that now, but I don't think they will. I think they're going to go for more shorter things, like you say.
Yeah, I think they've done this in the past, and like Sandro's the poster boy for this, isn't he? Look at this $5 million bargain from Spain. Shite.
Yeah, but it's never too late to start doing things right, is it? Like, just because that one went wrong, it's just
no, but you got to understand their thinking to think that they don't want to do that again. How many signings are you going to get in the summer? You can't buy 100 players and 20 of them work, and then the rest of them you can discard. You've got to be careful, especially where we've just finished.
Yeah, well, one would think if this Idrissa Gueye link is true and comes off, then you think that next summer that's what we'd be looking at, a young player, the next Idrissa Gueye who's young. Whereas this year, I think they just want the safe bets. They're not gambling.
We've seen other teams, and in this model of players from abroad who are gems and all that are being held up, but it doesn't work. Leicester spent a lot of money on Soumare, and he's been absolutely pants. You know, there's loads of examples of it not working as well, and I just think you've got to be careful. If there's someone who you know is going to pretty much work out and it's not costing you an arm and a leg, like a McNeil, I'm not saying he's going to be brilliant, but I think he'd be reliable. then I think it's for Everton now. I think they could just take that option. And McNeil isn't 32; he's quite young. I haven't got a huge issue with it. I just think if money's tight, we have to be maximising the amount of goals we've got in our team, and that's where my question lies, to be honest, on this.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot will depend on who else comes in and what the context and the bigger picture looks like when it comes to McNeil. But he seems like a deal that suits all parties. We're paying a small amount up front. They're getting somebody for a player they probably know they can't, keep hold of, and the player gets to take a step up. Even if Burnley were in the Premier League, Everton are, a much bigger club than Burnley, and now that they're in the Championship again, they probably think, right, it's time for a clean break and to go again and try and come back up. And McNeil's a sellable asset, so yeah, I think everyone's happy with the move. McNeil, especially, and I think the fans who are on the fence, I don't think anyone's dead against it. Well, there are a few, but I think
there'll always be a few people who are deadly against anything.
So. Yeah, but I think he's got an opportunity, to win us over. Like, he's been in a bit of a goldfish bowl at Burnley, where, as you say, he was the star player. And now he's going to come to Everton, and the expectation is a lot higher, and there's other players around him. Not to say we're a team of stars, but he's got Calvert-Lewin there, he's got Pickford, he's got England internationals around him now, and things like that. So, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with the signing. I was keen on him a few years ago. I've maintained that. And it seems like it's a club transfer more than any particular person at the club, because I think we've had a long-standing interest in him, which makes me think that it was the scouts who really had him on the list.
I was going about to ask that. Who do you think has been driving this for the last few years? Because it clearly isn't Frank Lampard, because he's been linked last summer. Evidently isn't Rafa Benitez, only because we've been linked again this summer. So it's an interesting one. It can't be Brown unless they're just looking at brands as a whole the list again.
Well, honestly, people aren't going to like this, and if it is true, I'm not going to like it either. But I think, obviously, the club's said it's going to take a, quote, collegiate approach to transfers. So I think McNeil, Patterson, Michaelenko, I think these are all players who the scouts have brought to the club and say that there's upside to them, and they've been maintained on the transfer department's list as managers and directors of football have changed. And I think our chairman Bill Kenwright might have said, "I trust these guys. Why don't you go for them?" And obviously the others will have to have signed off on it. You can't. I'm not suggesting that we're still doing. Some people are buying some players and some people are buying others, but I think the scouts and possibly the chairman will have put him on the table, and Thelwell and Lampard will have gone, yeah, I think that can work. Because
there's probably a list of about 50 people that they probably also turned down, but I do think there's a basic list.
Yeah, there will be. I think all clubs will probably be like that. Because the problem what we've had in the last few years is probably the scouting departments and the football analytics departments have put these players forward, and the manager's walked in and gone, no, actually, I want this player who we used to have at this other team, and they've got on the phone to Farhad and he's sorted it out, and brands be damned, or whoever it was. So hopefully those days are over. But yeah, Dwight McNeil, he's been a long-term target to the club, and hopefully he can kick on, and hopefully the other two who are clearly in the same boat, the likes of Michaelenko and Patterson, can kick on as well, and we start to see a real reset, like a new look Everton in the coming season. Doesn't have to be, all singing, all dancing. It just needs to be functional, needs to be stable, and needs to be well away from the relegation zone. And hopefully Dwight McNeil. Right, well, I think we'll draw it to a close there. The well-worn path from Burnley to Everton has been walked again. So let us know what you think in the comments. So you're happy with Dwight McNeil signing for Everton? If you're not happy, let us know. Let us know why. And yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Toffee Blues.